Birth Control and Family Planning in the United States and Mauritania by Lauren Rice. History. Birth control methods have been used by men and women for many years. Throughout these years, there have been many advancements to the methods, improving its use and effectiveness. Around 3000 BC, condoms were made from materials such as fish bladders and linen sheaths and animal intestines. Around the 1500s, the first spermicides were introduced. These were made from linen cloth sheets that were soaked in a chemical solution and dried. In 1838, condoms and diaphragms were made from vulcanized rubber. In 1873, the Comstock Act passed in the United States prohibiting advertisements, information, and distribution of birth control. It also allowed the Postal Service to confiscate birth control sold through the mail. In 1916, the first birth control clinic in the United States was opened by Margaret Sanger. The next year, she was sentenced to 30 days in jail after being deemed guilty of maintaining a public nuisance. Once she was released, Sanger reopened her clinic and continued to persevere through more arrests and prosecutions that she faced. In 1938, the federal ban on birth control was lifted. Also, diaphragms became a popular method of birth control in this year. In 1950, Sanger, while in her 80s, undertook the research needed to create the first human birth control pill. She raised $150,000 for the project. In 1960, the first oral contraceptive, Enoved, was approved by the FDA as contraception. In 1965, the Supreme Court gave married couples the right to use birth control, ruling that it was protected in the Constitution as a right to privacy. However, millions of unmarried women in 26 states were still denied birth control. In 1968, FDA approved IUDs. In 1970, the safety of oral contraceptives were challenged by feminists at congressional hearings. As a result, the formulation of the pill was changed and the package insert for prescription drugs came into being. In 1972, the Supreme Court legalized birth control for all citizens of this country, regardless of their marital status. In 1974, the FDA suspended the sale of Dalkin Shield IUD due to infections and 7 documented deaths among users. Although other IUD designs were not implicated, most IUDs were slowly taken off the U.S. market due to escalating costs of lawsuits. In the 1980s, pills with low doses of hormones were introduced, along with a new copper IUD, Paragard, in 1998. Growing awareness of the USP regimen for emergency contraception. In the 1990s, introduction of Norplant, the first contraceptive implant, and Depo-Vera, an injectable method, in 1992, FC1 Reality, a female condom, in 1993, and Plan B, a dedicated emergency contraceptive product, in 1999. 2000s, there was a rapid expansion in method availability and improvements in safety and effectiveness, including introduction of Mirena, a new IUD in 2000s, Ortho Evra, a hormonal patch in 2001, NuvaRing, a vaginal ring in 2001, Essure, a method of transversical female sterilization in 2002, and Implanon, a single rod implant in 2006, and FC2, an improved female condom. In 2002, the first implant, Norplant, is taken off the U.S. market due to insertion errors. In the 2010s, Ella, a new emergency contraceptive pill, and Skyla, a new levonorgestrel-releasing IUD in 2013 are reintroduced. There is a growing use of copper IUD for emergency contraception due to them not using hormones. In 2013, after protracted regulatory and legal battles, one brand of emergency contraceptive pill, Plan B One Step, becomes available without a prescription on drugstore shelves. Today, more research is needed on women-controlled methods that protect against STIs and birth control for men. Also, barriers remain for accessing reliable contraception for women worldwide. The effects of history. Due to these advancements in birth control methods over the years, people have a greater variety of ways to family plan. Not only this, but the contraceptives have also been made safer to use. People have options to choose from for what works best for them and their bodies. Some methods may cause symptoms for some people while others are not affected. For example, hormonal IUDs can cause irregular periods, spotting between periods, or worse menstrual cramps for some people, but leave others feeling fine and seeing no difference. Each body is different, which increases the need for a variety of methods to be available so there's a suitable fit for everyone. Improvements. Research performed over the years have allowed birth control options to become more effective for society. The pill now has a failure rate of just 7%, coming down from 8% in 2002. The shot, which used to have a failure rate of 7%, now only has a failure rate of 4%. And the male condom, which once had a failure rate of 18% in 2002, now has a 13% failure rate. Although these results may seem small, they can leave big positive impacts on women in family planning and preventing unintended pregnancies. Today's society in the United States. The pill and female sterilization have been the two most commonly used methods since 1982. The pill is more than 99% effective with perfect use. Perfect use is termed as taking it at the same time with no pill skipped, and around 91% effective with typical use. Typical use is what is defined as what the average person does, meaning they may take it at a different time or they may skip one a day accidentally. Female sterilization is more than 99% effective. 72% of women who practice contraception currently use non-permanent methods, primarily hormonal methods, which include the pill, patch, implant, injectable, and vaginal ring, IUDs, and condoms. Majority of the people in this percentage are using the pill. This means the rest, and the second most common method, is female sterilization at 22% or male sterilization at 7%. Issues in the United States. Despite the wide option of contraceptives, many people decide to not use any. The importance of family planning is ignored by these behaviors as the risk of unintended pregnancies increases. There are 61 million U.S. women of reproductive age, which is the ages of 15 to 44, in the United States. About 43 million of them are at risk of unintended pregnancy. That's about 70%. That is, they are sexually active and do not want to become pregnant, but could become pregnant if they and their partners fail to use a contraceptive method correctly and consistently. Couples who do not use any method of contraception have approximately an 85% chance of experiencing a pregnancy over the course of a year. In the United States, the average desired family size is 2 children. To achieve this family size, a woman must use contraceptives for roughly 3 decades. Issues in the United States continued. Despite all the advancements that have been made to birth control methods throughout the years, there are still issues that are present. Studies show hormonal birth control can cause blood clots, risking one's chances of a stroke. Short-term effects include headaches, nausea, weight gain, and mood swings. Manufacturing issues of birth control, such as placebo pills replacing active pills. There's also not enough access of birth control methods for everyone. In addition, numerous and serious complications with some brands of birth control, causing physicians to be required to hang out lengthy brochures to warn patients of all possible side effects. All these issues are some factors that prevent women from taking birth control at all. More on manufacturing issues. A finding published by the Canadian Medical Association Journal revealed that recalls in birth control pills after a pharmacy discovered a placebo pill in the place of an active pill. Prior to this, a much larger recall occurred by Apotex Incorporation after finding that their birth control pill, Alistina 28, had some packages with 2 rows of placebo pills instead of 1. These errors in manufacturing can be very detrimental to women. They rely on their birth control to stop unintended pregnancies and should trust the manufacturers to make them safely. Taking a placebo pill, which has no active ingredients to prevent pregnancy, instead of an active pill, can lead to errors in one's family planning. More on new physician requirements. Just 2 years after the FDA added a boxed warning to the e-Sure contraceptive device, new restrictions on the on its use have been imposed. For the contraceptive device, Essure, physicians are now required to give patients a 22-page educational brochure and discuss with them the device's risks and benefits before the device is implanted. Physicians also must inform patients of alternative contraceptive methods, answer any other questions they may have about the device, and sign the brochure to document that the discussions have taken place. The FDA's actions are in response to ongoing reports of serious adverse effects and the agency's concerns that women don't receive enough information before they decide whether to have the device implanted. From 2002, when Essure was approved, until December 2017, medical reports to the agency included 21,215 women describing pain, 9,846 having menstrual irregularities, and 7,231 reporting headache complaints. There are also 10 adult deaths and 4 infant deaths that have been reported. The requirement for a boxed warning was issued in November 2016 to warn of adverse events such as perforation of the uterus or fallopian tubes. Issues in the United States. With all the issues just mentioned still present in today's society, it is clear why many people struggle with family planning. Some individuals have no access to contraceptives or no health insurance to cover the costs. This leaves them with nothing to use, putting them at a higher risk of unintended pregnancies. Others may have been faced with a manufacturing error or are worried about all the possible side effects. Regardless, birth control should be a safe, healthy, and easily available option for everyone to better plan their lives, as well as their children's lives. Having children sooner than anticipated can lead to further complications financially, physically, mentally, socially, and a variety of other areas. Benefits of birth control. In addition to stopping unintended pregnancies, a recent study has shown another benefit to taking birth control pills. The findings revealed that women who use emergency contraception pills are more likely to later use highly effective contraception methods. This includes pills, IUDs, implants, or sterilization. The study suggests the realization of a possible pregnancy when having to take emergency contraceptives, leading to an individual taking more reliable sources of daily pregnancy prevention, so the situation will not need to reoccur in the future. Cultural background in Mauritania. For the governing economy, people do not expect much from the government and rarely pay taxes. Mauritania is one of the largest recipients of foreign aid in the world, one of the least industrialized countries, and is deeply in debt. The few industries that are there involve the production and partial processing of iron ore. Differences and roles of men and women. Culturally, women's importance is recognized, but men dominate in the economic, political, social, and religious aspects. There is more illiteracy and unemployment among women than men. In the South, men provide for the family and women process and cook food and take care of children. In the Arab Berber North, women are not supposed to perform physical work, which is seen as degrading. Work there is the domain of slave women, and female slaves are sexually exploited. During racial massacres, women are targets for rape and terror. Marriage in the country. Many marriages are forced or arranged, especially the first marriage. Forced feeding to fatten young girls for marriage is common among the Moors and Haritan. Cultural background continued. Children. Child care is provided by the older members of an extended family, and the firstborn child is looked after by the grandmother and aunts. Women, including older sisters and cousins, take care of children, and men come into the picture as the child grows up. Infants are not separated from adults and are nearly always carried. Education. Before independence, there were few schools and illiteracy was close to 100%. In the first schooling system, the main objective is to teach young children how to be useful members of the local community. Education is provided by parents, older siblings, peers, and specialized traditional teachers. Healthcare. People believe that disease is caused by destiny, bad magic, or breaking taboos, and seek help from traditional and Islamic healers who combine modern medicine with traditional methods. Very few people have access to medical care, which is concentrated in the urban centers. The basic public health care has fell apart, and the rich have set up private health units and pharmacies for themselves. Life expectancy is low. Infant mortality is high, and this is all partially because of a lack of clean water. Birth control in Mauritania. As one of the smallest countries in population, this Islamic state located in northwest Africa has just recently seen a transition of focus from birth spacing to family planning. This step is important because it will gradually break taboos around contraception that are held in the country. Rather than focusing on how soon a woman should become pregnant after giving one birth, believing that it is a responsibility and duty as a woman, the concept of family planning is becoming a focus. Parents are deciding how many children they want, how many they can care for, and when they want to grow a family. These are all important decisions because it impacts the health, happiness, and comfortability of living for the entire family. Contraceptives are becoming more accessible and used in Mauritania as women learn the importance of family planning and being able to stop unwanted or unintended pregnancies. Birth control in Mauritania. The higher use of contraceptives in this country is a result of years of advocacy and collaboration at the highest level by Family Planning 2020 focal points. In 2017, Mauritania approved its first reproductive health/family planning law in the country's history. Later that year, the Ministry of Health published a note circulaire stating that all public, parapublic, and private health centers that have qualified staff may offer a choice of contraceptive methods, and that postpartum counseling starts at the first prenatal visit. Despite these strides, there are still a number of challenges for health workers around stockouts, forecasting, supply chain, and logistics. Spreading these to the remote areas of this vast desert country is very difficult, as well as with public education on family planning. Projected trends in Mauritania. In 2012, only 7% of all women in the country used a modern form of contraception. In that same year, about 11% of married women were using a type of birth control. Although there is a slight increase in birth control use in married women than unmarried women, showing they have a greater understanding of the importance of family planning, these numbers are still very low. However, through advocacy and government efforts, more forms have become available over the years, increasing these numbers. In 2018, the use of contraceptives in all women rose to almost 10%, while the percentage of married women increased to 16%. Percentages are expected to grow to almost 11% for all women in 2020 and almost 18% for married women in that same year. Popular birth control methods in Mauritania. The most popular contraceptive used by women in the country is the pill at 67.7%. Following this are injectable contraceptives at 22.8%, implants at 5.1%, IUDs at 1.9%, male condoms at 1.3%, and female sterilization and lactational amenorrhea method are even at 0.6%. Health issues in Mauritania. Despite the increasing use of contraception and the focus on family planning, the country still struggles with other health issues. Per 1,000 childbirths, there are 52 deaths in the country, as opposed to the United States that only has 5.7 deaths per 1,000 births. In 2015, the total healthcare expenditure was about 4% of GDP, while in the US it was 17%. Life expectancy in 2016 in Mauritania was 63 years. In the United States, in that same year, it was almost 79 years. In 1999, there was an estimated 0.1 physicians and 0.7 hospital beds per 1,000 people in Mauritania. Main health problems include malaria, tuberculosis, measles, and influenza. Pregnancy complications are common due to unhygienic conditions and a lack of medical care. Issues present in both the U.S. and Mauritania. In both countries, women face barriers in receiving or affording birth control. There's a lack of knowledge, misperceptions, and exaggerated concerns about the safety of contraceptive methods, and these are the major barriers to contraceptive use. Unfavorable legal rulings and restrictive legislative measures can impede access to contraceptives. Healthcare providers also may have knowledge deficits that can hamper their ability to offer appropriate contraceptive methods to their patients. Issues of postpartum depression and what is being done to help those who suffer from it. Between 50 and 85% of new mothers experience a brief postpartum period. These feelings of tearfulness and anxiety are often termed the maternity blues. Some 10 to 15% of women experience postpartum depression as a longer-lasting and more pervasive type of mood disorder. In both countries, social effects women have to face, such as being treated differently, roles they are expected to take, and issues they face surrounding maternity leave from work. Issues present in both U.S. and Mauritania. In both countries, mortality rates of giving birth and of their children are an issue. The UN agency reported in 2017 that 13 women die weekly while giving birth in Mauritania. The U.S. maternal mortality rate is 20.7 per 100,000 live births. Although there is a big difference between these two numbers between the two countries, this is still an issue that needs to be solved. The biggest reasons for maternal mortalities: poverty rates, untreated chronic conditions, and a lack of access to healthcare, especially in rural areas where there are not nearby hospitals and maternity units. There are also issues that arise during labor and delivery. To prevent this, there needs to be an increase in data collection to quickly identify deficiencies, such as failing to have the right supplies on hand or performing unnecessary C-sections, and training nurses and doctors to overcome them. Differences between the U.S. and Mauritania. The biggest and most impactful difference in the United States has, compared to the Mauritania, is the culture. The U.S. is a developed nation set with government regulations, a strong economy, an advanced technological infrastructure, and human freedom and rights. Although many individuals are not covered by health insurance, there are still opportunities for them to get coverage or receive emergency medical attention when needed. Mauritania is far less developed, low-educated, little technology, few infrastructures, and limited healthcare. Women are subjected to cultural roles they must fulfill and have little choice over their lives and future. Actions being taken in the U.S. Although it may depend on the state one lives in, overall, women can gain access to birth control in the U.S. with a prescription. However, current requirements for the prescription may act as a barrier to access for many individuals. Planned Parenthood is an organization taking action in the U.S. to expand access of birth control. Their efforts include making it available over the counter and protecting insurance coverage so that it is affordable for all women. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists is also taking action by agreeing that birth control pills should be available without a prescription over the counter, but only if it is fully covered by insurance. Without insurance coverage, birth control pills can cost up to $600 a year, making it far out of reach for many women, especially those who are already struggling financially. Although birth control can be expensive and the cost can be a barrier for women to access their preferred method, publicly funded programs such as Medicaid, combined with the birth control benefit included in the Affordable Care Act, have helped decrease the cost of birth control methods for women and greatly increased some women's access to all forms of birth control, including highly effective methods such as IUDs and implants. These long-lasting reversible contraceptives have also been shown to be the most effective in reducing the rate of unintended pregnancy, and when cost and access barriers are markedly reduced, an increasing amount of women choose LRC. The New England Journal of Medicine reveals that the dramatic increase in LARC use over the past decade has coincided with decreases in rates of unintended pregnancy in all segments of the population, including low-income women and teens. A key step was the ACA's requirement that health insurers cover women's preventive care services with no out-of-pocket costs. The inclusion of birth control as a preventive service increased access at no cost to the patient. to the full range of birth control methods approved by the FDA. Thanks to this benefit, more than 55 million women now have access to birth control without co-payments, which has saved them an estimated $1.4 billion in the first year alone. Actions being taken in Mauritania. Family Planning 2020 is an organization taking much-needed action for its citizens in Mauritania. Building upon its existing commitment to the Ouagadougou Partnership, Mauritania commits to the principles and objectives of Family Planning 2020 and will work to mobilize the resources necessary to meet these objectives. Objectives that were written in 2013 included increase the modern contraceptive prevalence rate from 11% to 18.5% by 2018, reduce the total fertility rate from 4.7 to 4.2 by 2015. Financial commitments included beginning in 2014, the government of Mauritania commits to allocating health commodity security funds for family planning. It also commits, along with partners, to mobilizing additional resources for the implementation of the National Action Plan of Family Planning. Program and service delivery commitments included Mauritania's National Action Plan on Family Planning that was developed in 2013 through a participatory and inclusive process and outlines Mauritania's priorities for family planning and creates a framework for partnership and resource mobilization. Conclusions. It is clear that having birth control available to everyone and being educated on family planning is important. Unfortunately, this is not always the case in some countries, and many women are left with no contraceptive methods, leading to unwanted pregnancies. Increasing access and education will allow more women to be safe, which will lead to more planned pregnancies and happier outcomes of families, since parents will not be struggling with more children than they can support. Although I support organizations making efforts for a change in birth control access for people, I do believe the decision to bring birth control over the counter should be left to the medical experts and scientists at the FDA and not to politicians. The safety of humans should also be a top concern. For now, access to prescriptions should be prioritized so families can plan for the future and have safe sex. References.